Awesome. Welcome, everyone.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hi, May.
Hey.
Hi, Mindy. Hi, Nicole.
Hey.
Jamie and Sarah.
Oh, how's it going, everyone? What's up, Sarah J?
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. So good to see you guys.
Hi, everyone. Grab your wine or water, bubble tea.
Jamie, you look so different with your new haircut. It looks really great.
Oh, let me see. Where is she?
Hey, I'm missing this.
She has
I'm
bangs.
missing this. Oh, she does have bangs.
You guys, I got a haircut too. I got like 6 inches taken off.
Oh
What?
my gosh.
I'm like
That's
not
so
a hippie
exciting.
anymore.
COVID haircuts are so
Gosh.
special. Everybody notices them like, oh, you got your haircut.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I need some of that. I expect some of that hair in the mail so I can weave it into my postpartum baldness.
Hey, Catherine. Hey, everyone. We're just going to give a few more minutes while we welcome everybody in. But if you guys want to put in the chat box where you're from and introduce yourselves. Welcome, everyone. We got a good turnout tonight. Excited. For everyone who isn't familiar with this group, Women Who Splitboard Colorado is a community of female splitboarders who are devoted to learning, sharing knowledge, and empowering each other to be confident in their backcountry decision-making skills. We're excited for you to join us tonight. We have a really great talk coming with Kelli Rohrig. I think I said it right. Let's see here. Beaver Creek.
Sarah, you probably know everything that I'm going to talk about.
We got Denver, Gunnison.
But I'm excited to learn some more stuff because I'm teaching a ARI course this weekend up on Vail Pass. So that's my first of the year. Been in Estes for 20 courses.
You're coming up to where the snow is. Well, it's definitely wet and failing. Like even on, I took a late afternoon tour up towards kind of that. I was trying to look into Thousand Turns, and yeah, it's failing, and it's on the verge of wet slab.
Man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sweet.
Yeah.
So the shedding cycle has started.
Oh my gosh, I almost crashed. I had to go meet a client, and I was looking up into the Y chute, and I was like, I think there's a wet slab. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like driving 70 down the highway.
Yeah.
Danger. Yeah, Preston says that's the most dangerous part of his job is looking at avalanches from the truck.
Right.
Kind of dangerous.
Yeah, I witnessed numerous avalanches one year teaching an ARI course with all my students in my car driving through Eastvale. It was pretty spectacular.
Look,
You look.
good stuff.
You guys want to ski today?
It's gonna be fine. Everything will be fine. Where are you staying, Sarah?
Oh, CMS got me some hotel in Frisco.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're vaccinated. You should stay here.
Oh, I got my first vaccine.
Please.
Yeah, I should. I'll just
Come on up.
give the hotel room away.
I know. We have a safe home.
Sweet. I'll chat with you more about it.
No, I still want to do that research project. I just had to put it on the back burner.
Well, it's kind of interesting, actually. That research project has got me motivated to start it already, and it's pretty awesome.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, like a CT6 versus CTN.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Sarah Mack, I'll explain our research. I got a women specific research project.
Oh, nice.
Sure.
Yeah. Love to
ISSW.
hear about it.
Ah,
Yeah.
a looming question.
I love the
Cool.
snow
Great.
geeking out already. It's awesome.
Yes. Just wait. Just you wait. It's gonna be amazing.
I remember one of your research projects in the avalanche review, right?
Oh, yeah, that one. I guess there's been 2 in there. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
I just had some guy that was like, yeah, and then there was this lady in Eastvale, and I was like, yeah, I'm the lady.
Oh man.
That was me. Did I give you candy? Did you say something mean to me? Because a lot of people did.
Ugh.
So for everyone who's joined, I was just going to explain the timeline of the event tonight. We have Kelli Rohrig here tonight. She's going to be doing the talk. I'll introduce her in just a second. And Sarah Mack, who's been helping create this event tonight. She's going to take care of questions during. So if you guys have any questions, just type them into the chat box. If Kelli can answer them in the middle, she will. If not, we'll kind of get to all those questions at the end, and Sarah's going to help us with that. So if you want to say hi, Sarah, so everybody knows who you are.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good night.
It was beautiful out today.
Oh my gosh.
So Kelli's been involved with women-specific outdoor education for more than 20 years. She's coached women's whitewater kayaking when she was a kayak rep. And I just found out at the beginning of this call that at that time she was the only female whitewater rep in the country. She's mountain biked after her short stint as a pro. She's done teleskiing and steep ski camps and taught avalanche education. She grew up in the mountains and loves all things elevation and snow. And she wishes winter was longer, and I wish it was too. And from what I've heard, there's a bunch more things that I don't even know about her, but I'm excited to learn. So Kelli, if you're ready to take it away, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, ladies. I know it's kind of late in the season, so thinking about snow maybe is off your radar, but we're going to learn about weather, which obviously goes 12 months out of the year. So this can be helpful for all year round. And going into next season, or if it snows again for Sarah Jannon's class, hopefully. But we're going to kind of dive into the weather and why it's so meaningful. And as I was telling the ladies before you all popped online, kind of the reason I focus on this class in mapping is weather and mapping makes us a level playing field, more or less. Like, it doesn't matter how big or small or old or young you are, we all either are horrible at mapping, which most people are, or we take to it and we understand it. And once you understand mapping, it's amazing. And it's the same with weather. So weather is synonymous with the snowpack. So you can't really understand the snowpack without understanding weather. And of course, kind of going into teaching Abby classes. So Sarah, Janet, and I have worked together in the past in multiple levels of things, as Sarah Mack and I have. And I think that with weather, we're always trying to create parallels between avalanche education and snow, because a lot of people miss like why you would spend time on education. But one of the things that I've come up with recently is from a 1990s surfing movie, and I can't even remember what it's called. But basically, it's this kid who learns how to surf in Arizona in a wave pool, and then he moves to North Shore and just gets his ass kicked.
It's called North Shore.
North Shore, there you go. So it's
Great movie.
total North Shore. There you go. And there is a parallel here. So this guy's mentor essentially says, in order to understand the waves and surfing, you have to sit on the shore and just look at the waves and understand the waves. And that's kind of how weather is. In order to really understand snowpack, you need to understand weather, and that's baseline. So when you're reading CAIC, the Colorado Avalanche Information Center, all of their baseline information is 100% weather. So the CIC office, when it is open, pre and post COVID, they're based out of the NOAA building. So they're working directly with weather forecasters. So we will take this away. I believe Sarah, Mac, and Allison are going to be just checking the chat. So if you have a question, just check it in the chat. And if it's something that we feel like we should answer straight away, I'll answer it right away. And don't be afraid to throw some stuff in there, and I will share my screen and we'll get started here. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Hopefully. Awesome. Cool. All right. So women in the backcountry ski and ride world. So there are many of us. We're becoming more. And I'm pretty old school, so I kind of came into the backcountry world before there was kind of this gender gap at all, because it was fairly new to everyone. When you just kind of threw it out there, there just wasn't a whole lot of women out there at all. So we were more or less like gender equal. And I think as we've progressed, that's where gender inequality has really started to become more of an issue. And so for me, it's really hard to wrap my brain around why, just because I've fortunately have not ever been put in too many situations where gender has become an issue. I do like gender specific classes merely from, as I was telling the ladies earlier, my first time doing women specific classes was when I was a kayak rep, and due to marketing, that's why we were marketing to women, 100% down to marketing. And taking women on whitewater, I started to see that if one woman did it, everybody did it. And that just doesn't happen in co-ed classes, even for men, even in all male classes. Just because one guy does it does not mean that all the guys are like, oh, okay, I can jump off of that. And then moving into mountain biking, it was really cool. I worked a lot with a woman, so I taught all the uphill classes, essentially the cross country classes, and she taught all the downhill portions. And she could get a 65-year-old woman to hit a ramp and catch air, and it was awesome. And once she did it, then of course all the 20-year-olds were like, damn, now I got to do it. So that's kind of my background into women specific classes. But again, I really like to teach weather and mapping because it is the equalizer. So moving on, continuing ed is mostly men. This was a Pro 2 plus that I participated in last year. And I was the only woman out of, I think it was 24 men and me, and no other female instructors either. Sarah Mack and Sarah Janin can also attest to this. We work mainly with men. We're a commodity out there, especially women that are lead instructors, because there's just not many of us. But there's more and more of us taking classes. So I taught quite a few classes, and I'm sure the Sarahs can chime in. It was about 50-50 on a lot of the classes that I taught this year, which was really cool. For women in all walks of life, a big difference between us is men think more rationally and women think more emotionally. And again, coming into weather and mapping, that kind of gets eliminated because we're talking about hard facts. And I think when we can remove that emotional component when we're backcountry decision making, it makes the group dynamics much easier. So when we have hard facts, this is what the weather's doing, this is what the snowpack is doing, this is where we are on the map, we can remove kind of a lot of that emotion out, and it puts us on an equal playing field. So women in the backcountry, take emotion out. Just kind of some learning differences between men and women. And this is boys and girls. This goes back to early on. Boys are more tactile learners, whereas women are kind of more lecture style. We prefer variety, and then we're more motivated kind of by leadership, whereas men are more motivated by each other. And I just thought that this study was pretty interesting. Just significant differences between women and men in athletics is confidence and then criticism. And we see this quite a bit with criticism. Men just kind of take it and are cool with it, whereas women definitely take it to heart. So just things to be mindful when you're out in the backcountry and putting yourself into continuing education or just baseline education. So there is my little gender talk, and let's get into the nitty gritty. So weather and wind. And again, any questions that you have, please just chime in, shoot something in the chat, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. Unfortunately, this winter never looked like this. With snow. It was pretty bleak, and it continues to be bleak. But Sarah Janin is about ready to teach a class on Vail Pass, and there may or may not be a storm coming in. But we are always checking what is the weather doing. So early season, we want to start tracking weather straight away from the get-go. Once we're in the season, we want to start tracking storms. And the reason being is down to the jet stream. So actually, can the ladies that don't have their cameras on, can you all turn your cameras on? I'd like to look at you. And then once you're on, give me a thumbs up. Who knows what the jet stream is? No. Jamie's got a yes. Nicole's got a yes. Tina, do you know what the jet stream is? No. Yeah? All right. Awesome. Okay. So, Catherine, how about you? You know what the jet stream is? No. Little. Okay. No. That's okay. Most people don't. All right. So, the jet stream is the baseline for where our weather comes from. So, we're going to watch a quick video on what is the jet stream. So the jet stream basically determines El Nino or La Nina, which this year we're in a La Nina year, and there's even a movie called Revenge of La Nina. So depending on where the jet stream is piping precip or any sort of humidity or moisture from is really going to determine what kind of year we're having. So this year, the Pacific Northwest and Canada, who is closed to us, they maybe will never open to us again now that they've had a life without Americans. They're doing really, really well, whereas here in Colorado, we're sucking pretty hard on snow. So that's all down to where is the jet stream. So we'll watch a quick video on what the jet stream is.
Warmer or colder than average ocean temperatures in one part of the world can influence weather around the globe. Boggles the mind, right? Here's how it works. During normal conditions, trade winds, which blow from east to west, push warm surface waters towards Asia, piling it up in the western Pacific. In some years, though, the trade winds weaken. The warm surface water moves eastward and reduces upwelling of cold water off the coast of South America. Climatologists call this El Nino. Its climate impacts show up mostly in the wintertime over North America. The warmer ocean fuels an intensification and southward shift of the jet stream. This brings flooding to the southern United States and warmer, drier conditions over parts of the Pacific Northwest, northern US, and Canada. But eventually, those trade winds pick up again and sometimes become even stronger than normal. When that happens, they blow the warm water back into the western Pacific and restart the upwelling of cool water towards the surface in the eastern Pacific. Strong trade winds are a signature of what is called La Niña, unusually cold conditions in the tropical Pacific that displace the jet stream northward. La Niña can lead to drought in the southern U.S. and cooler temperatures, heavy rains, and flooding in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, so that's what the jet stream is. And then we also have something called the atmospheric river. The previous name for atmospheric river was the Pineapple Express. That's a bit old school, but then everybody legalized weed and the government was like, that doesn't really sound right anymore. So an atmospheric river event is similar to what we had in 2018 when we had those giant avalanches. So that was an atmospheric river event. So that's basically the jet stream is consolidated into, I believe it's like a 3-mile track, and it just pipelines moisture into an area. So that's what happened in Tahoe this year was atmospheric river. And Colorado, it's I think like 60% of all of our snow comes from these atmospheric river events. So when we have a La Nina year, we're just lacking basically the jet stream. So we're lacking that moisture. Okay, so now that we have snow on the ground, so let's, we're pretty late in the season, so let's back up and let's pretend like this is March 1st. So I've got snow on the ground. I really want to know where my next storm is coming from, because I want to know, what kind of snowpack do I have to begin with? And that snowpack is really going to be down to when did my first storm events come from? And that's where avalanche education will explain more about snowpack and how we get faceting or that weakness in the snowpack. So when we have that early season snow on the ground, so those September, October events, and that snow just sits around and rots is kind of the easiest way to look at it. And then we start building a snowpack on top of that. So if we have an El Nino year and we're just getting storm event after storm event, that's when our snowpack tends to be more stable or relatively stable. On a year like this, where we get events once every 3 weeks, that's where our snowpack is very, very weak, because we're having a lot of environmental factors that are happening in between these snow events. So let's say it's March 1st of this year. We already know that our snowpack is really weak. It's been a terrible year. So when our storms start to come, I want to know what direction is it coming from, because I want to know what is the snow density going to be like and how much snow are we looking at. So when I have a storm that comes from the north, cold air holds less moisture. So a good example of that is Steamboat. Kind of their catchphrase in Steamboat is the champagne of powder, is because their snow quality is incredible. It is so light. So think about in the middle of the winter when we get 8 inches, and the way that you clean your car off is just slamming one door and all the snow comes off. That's because you have really, really low density snow. It's that perfect Colorado snow. If my storm is coming from the southwest, well, that's a lot warmer air mass. And so my snow is going to be a lot more dense. So if I've already got a really weak snowpack and I'm looking at a pretty significant storm coming from the southwest, already I'm thinking ahead to, well, what's this going to do to the snowpack? And it's probably going to be the beginning of a natural avalanche cycle, because our weak snowpack can't really take 10 inches of high density snow. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Okay. So the jet stream, it's really dependent. It moves around from year to year. Northwest flows, this is when Steamboat does really well. Southwest is when the San Juans do really well. So the San Juans were early season and they were actually getting quite a bit of good snow from those southwest flows. The west, so this is my zone, which is the Vail Breck zone. I think Sarah Max down in Gunnison. This is when we do really well. Gunnison also gets favored from a southwest. So when you see that a southwest storm's coming in, pack your car up and get to Wolf Creek. You know that they're just gonna get hammered because you've got this nice wet flow that's coming. All it has is this desert to cross. So there's no mountains for that storm to really release its snow. The first mountains it really sees are the San Juans and Wolf Creek. And that's where Wolf Creek will get 4 feet, 3 feet of snow. And the rest of Colorado is like, cool, we got a millimeter. That's great. With our Northwest mountains, kind of the same deal. They hit the Pacific Northwest and then they really regain a whole lot of energy as they cross this desert. And then they hit the steamboat zone. And then coming directly from the north, usually nobody wins because that snow, the temperatures are just too cold. They're not really holding much humidity or moisture. So that's when we get those Arctic blasts. So warm air holds more moisture. You can hold more cocktails when it's warm out. So storms from the southwest will be warmer and wetter. So warmer air holds more moisture. Storms from the south tend to be, from the north tend to be colder. So less snow, but much better snow quality. So has anybody ever skied in the Tahoe zone? Jamie, you've been so lucky. Nona, you. So Sarah Mack. All right, so what's the big difference between slamming your car door and all the snow coming off versus a 3-foot dump in Tahoe? That 3-foot dump in Tahoe is fun for about an hour. And then it just becomes Sierra cement is the common terminology. So part of that is we are those northwest flows. We just have colder, lower density snow. Or what the forecasters are looking at is something called SWE, snow water equivalent. So in Vail, our snow tends to be about, it depends on exactly the storm, but 5 to 8% SWE, 5 to 8% snow water equivalent. Whereas Tahoe, that snow is going to be 14 to 20% snow water equivalent. So a pretty significant difference. And then again, Steamboat, just because everybody kind of knows that champagne of powder, their density is around like 4%. So very, very low density. We don't have champagne of powder here in Vail because it's copyrighted by Steamboat. So we have the Prosecco of powder. And then the Breckenridge area has like the Franzia. Not quite there. It's good. It's just not, it's not the Cava or the Prosecco. It's not fine Italian. Awesome.
Who was that?
Hi, someone. All right. So this season, La Nina has been a total bummer. So this is where our snowpack averages, this has actually been updated. We're looking slightly better. But you can see where with La Nina, the Pacific Northwest has been faring really, really well, whereas the southern regions are not doing so well. All right, everybody good with kind of basic flows and jet stream and what we're looking at? Cool, so from the beginning, I wanna know, when did my first storms come? And what's happening in between those storms? Am I getting continuous snow or am I getting snow once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks? So when I'm getting continuous snow, I can look forward to, all right, this is gonna be a great season. The snowpack is gonna be relatively stable. And I say relatively stable because here in Colorado, we never have a stable snowpack. And that's just down to, we don't get a whole lot of snow and we have a ton of environmental factors. So years like this, straight away, we knew that it was going to be a pretty poor season. And then as it played out, it just got worse and worse. So on those years when we get storms, people get a little bit bummed when we don't get that normal snow in September. And then it comes into October and we're still not getting snow. And then all of a sudden we start to get snow at the end of October, well into November. That's when, as guides and forecasters and avalanche educators, we're pretty psyched. That September snow is fun, but straight away we're thinking, okay, it's going to be a dangerous season. All right, so tracking the weather from day one. The next thing I want to track is wind, because wind can transport anywhere from 6 to 10 times more snow than a storm. So once I have snow on the ground, I want to know where it's being blown onto. And this can work for us to keep us alive, but it can also work for us to find where the better snow is. And that goes down to mapping. And I'll explain that here in a sec. Windward is where the wind is coming from, and leeward is where the wind is going to. And oftentimes on CIC, they'll use windward and leeward, or that terminology you may read in a magazine or a book. All right, so I need to keep track of wind speeds, and I'm going to show you here in a bit on where I can find that information. Creeping is 0 to 10 miles an hour. So snow is being picked up and moved, but I'm not really concerned about where that snow is being moved. It's not moving with enough velocity to really carry it anywhere. 11 to 30, now I'm really paying attention, because if I have snow on the ground, that snow is actually being picked up and transported somewhere. Cornice building happens 15 to 25 miles an hour. Is everybody familiar with what a cornice is? Everybody knows what the big overhanging cornice looks like? Cool. Always stay way, way, way clear. I think the last fatality of the season that was reported was some snowmobiler. They actually have a picture. He drove to the toe of the cornice and parked in a great place, and then got off of his snowmobile and walked right out onto the cornice and fell to his death. So always give cornices a very wide berth. Anything more than like 30 miles an hour, we're starting to get suspension. So that's when you're driving to go to the trailhead and you see these plumes blowing off mountaintops. So as we're driving, it's dangerous, and I should just drive 45 with my hazards on at all times, because I usually drive like this, looking up and looking at wind and like avalanches and all kinds of stuff. My husband is the Vail Summit Steamboat CIC forecaster, and he often says that is by far the most dangerous part of his job is driving. And there is a couple of, if you see a CIC truck on the road, just get out of their way. Because, they're probably going 75 and they're doing this. For real. All right, so I need to know my wind speeds. And I also need to know wind direction. So this is sublimation. This is just the snow is turning back into gas and going away. So this is what wind slab looks like. When we're ascending, this is going to tell me that I've got some sort of wind disturbance. So this is wind etching. So I know that the wind came from this direction, from wind etching, and then you start to see it get really, really smooth. So wind etching is always going to terminate in like a nice smooth surface. So smooth surface is telling me wind loaded, and I probably want to stay off an area that's wind loaded if it's over 30 degrees. So this is where wind can also work in our favor. So if we're truly trying to dial it back because we're worried about avalanche danger, looking where the wind is being deposited, and if we can find a 28 degree, 26 degree slope that doesn't have any overhead hazard, go ski it. It's gonna be awesome. also understanding the weather and wind direction. So most people on their local ski resorts, they have kind of a pattern that they do. So in Vail, people tend to go to Lion's Head and they go up that lift to that lift, and then they drop in the back. Well, they're so used to our westerly flow. So Colorado's main wind direction is westerly. So if we have this outlying easterly storm or a southeasterly storm, all of a sudden our wind is coming from a different direction. So we're getting wind loaded in areas that don't typically get wind loaded. So those are those days that you can kind of sneak out and ski stuff that you normally wouldn't ski on mountain. And it's going to be great because wind loading is going to work in your favor. So same in the backcountry. If the avalanche danger is significant, considerable, or even moderate, and you don't really feel like putting it out there, look where the snow has been loaded and then use your mapping skills to find where that low angle terrain is. So what makes a wind slab really dangerous is when those snow particles get picked up and moved around, they basically get broken down. And as they start to hit each other, they bond, and they bond in a really, really dense slab. So that's what makes a wind slab dangerous, is it tends to be really, really dense and very, very heavy. Wind loading can happen in a couple of different ways, just down to which way the wind is blowing. So when it comes up over the top of the ridge, that's where we get cornices, but we can also get cross loading. And then in certain areas, we can get an upslope. So as we're ascending in the backcountry, once we've seen the general wind pattern, then we need to recognize our localized wind patterns. So in my zone, in Vail Pass zone, in the Gore, each drainage in the Gore range has its own localized wind. So we'll see different wind patterns in each of those drainages. And then once you get up onto Vail Pass, even each side of the pass will have a different wind loading pattern. So just recognizing that. So here we've got some cross loading. This is over in the Breck zone. This is the top of Baldy. Sorry, my dog is chewing a bone. And then we've got micro zones or micro loading. And that can just be down to different objects that are creating kind of divergences in the snow or in the wind loading patterns. So these can be really tricky because what can happen is we're really used to seeing cornices, but then all of a sudden I've got snow being picked up and taken around different objects. So now all of a sudden I've got a wind loading. Hi, Gonzo. I've got wind loading and wind slabs happening in areas that I may or may not recognize. So again, I'm just always paying attention to what's happening around me. So when we have those wind speeds of 25 plus, what happens is the snow that was over here ends up jumping the cornice and actually being loaded down onto the slope. And this is where things can get really, really tricky. So again, just recognizing wind loading. All right, so here is an example. This is I-70. So our winds blow typically west to east. So I-70 Copper Mountain. This is the sky chutes for those of you that are familiar with the sky chutes. So the backside of the sky chutes is Breckenridge. So we have our wind that kind of comes right up the I-70 corridor. As it comes up, it's kind of going up all those drainages into the Gore. And then it runs into the 10 mile. So we get orographic lifting. The wind runs into this peak, has to get lifted up, and it's got to go somewhere, which is up over the top. So these are the sky chutes. This is driving I-70 west. I was not the driver, so this picture was taken with safety protocols. We see that we are lacking snow up here. So as I'm driving to go do my ski day at Breckenridge, I can straight away assume, I bet there's a whole lot of cornices at Breckenridge, and I bet it's really windy. And lo and behold, so this is Breckenridge that same day. So again, wind etching, wind loading. And you see how nice and smooth and inviting this is? So this is all wind loaded. The only reason why this zone is ever skiable is because Breckenridge does avalanche mitigation every couple of hours up here. They burn so much time on this ridge. So in the backcountry, if I were planning on skiing on the backside of the sky chutes, straight away, I'm going to probably start calling my partners or talking to my partners in the car and saying, I don't know, man, there's no snow up here. It had to go somewhere. It's probably on the backside. We might want to rethink our plan. All right. So again, so we've got another example. So lots of wind etching. Wind is blowing from this person's back. So we're gonna see where we've got wind etching, and watch the snow quality under his skis. It's gonna be really, really hard pack, and then all of a sudden it's gonna be really nice snow quality. So you see where it gets nice and smooth and it's really inviting. I would like to go ski this. I see where this guy was going with his line choice here. Okay, so somehow this guy is totally fine. I don't know how. So for those of you that have some sort of Abbey education, does everybody know what a trigger point is? Okay, trigger point, perfect. So trigger point is anywhere where we can initiate those persistent weak layers more easily. Okay, so the thing with a wind slab is, as we see him skiing down and he's on wind scoured or wind etched snow, and then all of a sudden he's on the slab and it looks really nice and he's actually moving quite a bit of snow. What happens with wind slab is, depending on wind velocity and how far those snow particles were carried, eventually they taper. So eventually I've got a shallow spot in the middle of that slope, and that's where he triggers. So again, recognizing wind speeds, where is my snow coming from? So what kind of snow am I dealing with? Really, really low density snow, it's gonna move a lot easier than our Sierra cement. It takes a lot more wind to move that higher density snow. Here in Colorado, our snow moves really easily. So it doesn't take a whole lot for that low density snow to get picked up and transported somewhere. So now I need to know, well, how far down onto the slope did it get transported? And that's exactly what happens to this guy. He gets to the tail end or where that wind slab tapers, and that's where he triggers the avalanche. All right, so where can we find all this information on the CAIC? And we will go live here and look at the actual CIC. Oh, hang on one sec, I gotta click out of this. Okay, does anybody have any questions so far? Because I know this is a whole lot of information and it's 8 o'clock at night, and hopefully you guys have a beer in your hand. Nice. I think Zooming is much easier with beer. Poor Allison cannot have a beer because she has a baby. And she just got COVID shot. All right, any questions so far? May, what do you do for work?
Tonight, I'm at Tuscany up in Beaver Creek.
Oh, right on. They're like, what is she doing? Nice. Aspen Mountains. So Aspen, it really depends on, so it's really similar to Vail and Beaver Creek or even Summit County. So Breckenridge is kind of this crazy outlier that they have to have really a perfect storm for them to get snow, because they get really dodged by your typical westerly flows and easterly flows. Beaver Creek will fare better on a southwest. Vail fares better more on a north. So depending on which Aspen Mountains. So Snowmass does better more with a direct west, because they're the first ones that get hit by those flows, those westerly flows. Whereas Ajax will do a little bit better more with a southwest. So it depends on which Aspen Mountain. And then Marble is the total outlier. So Marble gets those southwest and those west flows. It's basically the first ridge that gets hit by those storms. So depending on, that's the beauty of Aspen, is there's 4 to choose from. So you just look at the weather pattern and you can kind of beat people to it, because you have your Highlands people that are, it's like Vail people. They don't know what Beaver Creek is exactly. And then your Beaver Creek people are like, I don't know, Vail, it's this place. You definitely have your Highlands people that are like, where's Buttermilk? I don't even know what that is. So if you can read the weather, you can hit each mountain down to where the weather's coming from. And then same, like, go to Marble most of the time. Awesome. Any other questions? Pillows, wet and heavy. Awesome. Oh, no, not Henry. This is Foos. This is the new one. He'll chime in here in a sec. Oh, but yes, Henry was in the other picture. Sarah was Henry's babysitter.
Nicole's wondering that she's wondering if the avalanche was triggered above him, that skier in the video.
Yeah, so he triggered from the margin, so he was well onto the slope. So as he got to the tail end of that wind slab, that's where he triggered. And a hard slab, think of the hard slab as like a plate of snow. And so he got to the bottom of the plate, and that's where he triggered. So that whole plate started to move with him. And that's the big difference between what we call slough avalanches or loose avalanches versus slab. So slough avalanches break at our feet, whereas slabs, you're basically on a big connected piece of snow. So you can trigger it from the bottom, the middle, or the top. If you trigger it from the bottom, likelihood of getting off that slab are very, very small. So you essentially have all that snow moving on top of you. If you do trigger from the top, you have a greater chance of being able to get off of that slab. It depends on how big that slab is, but that's a big difference. But yeah, it triggered above him. Super. All right. Hi, Jaffe. All right, so let's look at CAIC here. Oops, I just lost you guys. Hang on. Sorry, I just registered vaccine people for a while and had some guy freak out at the vaccine place.
How did he freak
out? He had registered himself under the name F, like just F, and then he was actually being registered by the woman next to me, who is the county treasurer, and she said, well, I kind of need to have a name, and he said, no, you don't. And she said, well, yeah, this is a federal program. And then he made up a name, and then she said, I also need a birthday. And then it just spiraled from there, and he had a fit in front of like 100 people, and then yelled at all of us, "You're just pissing people off." And everybody in line was like, "I'm not pissed. This is free." Like, pretty sure nobody told you you had to be here. It was pretty awkward. So there was like a good solid minute of everybody like, I don't know, what do we do? All right, so let's look at CIC. Hey, go away. Oops, sorry. All right, here is the main page on the Colorado Avalanche Information Center. So we've got our zones up here. But we've got some options going on. So we can come down here and come down to weather, and sorry, my husband's making a whole lot of noise. He's going away. A lot of noises. Now you have to say hi to the girls.
Hi, girls.
This is your forecaster.
Hello. How's it going?
Hi, Kristen.
How's it going? How are you?
Sarah, Janet, and Jaffe are here.
Okay.
Hey.
What's
Hi.
you guys?
Hey.
Hey, guys.
Where Sarah's.
Hey, there you are. I know you. What's up?
All right. Oh, and Jaffe, just the other male in the room. We digress. It's late. Sorry, everybody. All right. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to come down to weather. And then from weather, I'm going to come over here to model forecast. All right, so from here, I've got a whole bunch of options. So this is where I have to make the decision on how deep down the rabbit hole do I want to get, and how boring is my job, and how much time can I waste online before my boss busts me. So May, this is the next week of your life, I guess. Although I'm assuming Tuscanini is going to close soon. But here's how you burn an amazing amount of time. All right, so a model forecast is when you're looking at Channel 9 News and you have that very nice lady telling you whatever it is that she's telling you. She has looked at a whole bunch of forecasts, and then she's come up with her interpretation of those forecasts, more or less. And there's a whole bunch of different forecasts to look at. And there are times when all of those forecasts do not align in any way, shape, or form. All right. Take you guys somewhere quieter. All right. So we always want to check multiple forecasts. And this is a great place to check at least 3 forecasts. So again, this is a computer model that's essentially making a projection forward, or a guess. So over here, I can look at a couple of different models. So the CIC WRF model was built by one of the former forecaster who is a PhD in meteorology. So his reliability tends to be pretty high. Just to give you a little background on him, he no longer is a forecaster for CIC, but he does maintain the WRF model. And in the last couple of years, he was hired by the Malaysian government to rebuild their entire national forecasting system. And then he was hired by the Saudis to also build part of their forecasting system. So he's a genius, but he just likes to ski and just wants to be left alone to ski. So WRF model, I love the WRF model because he's just hilarious. And so this is the high resolution WRF model. So CIC gave him a little bit more money and he got to build a new, better model. This is the North American model. So this is what, when you look at NOAA, does everybody know what NOAA is? Okay, so this is more or less being produced from NOAA. And then the GFS, this is a global model. So this is a really, really broad, big picture. So let's come here to the WRF high-res. All right, so if we want to just get into like very, very basic information, let's just look at Colorado. And I can come down here and I can just look at what the snow looks like over the next couple of storms. So the models run for 84 hours and then they refresh. So we're right at the end of this particular model. So let's look at total snow. So we've got to let it load here. And so this model started at noon today. This is Summit County, this is Eagle County. Berthoud Pass is kind of over in this zone, and then Aspen's up in here. All right, so we've got nothing. All right, and then Friday, it looks like we have this nice northerly flow. So let's see what that looks like. And there we've got Friday night. So it looks like maybe Cameron Pass might get a little bit of precipitation into Saturday, into Sunday, and the model's gonna run out of time here in a sec. So that's what the next couple of days look like. So that's total snow. All right, for comparison, let's look at total precipitation. So total snow versus total precipitation. So this is going to include rain as well. All right, so again, model started at noon. Going into Friday, here comes that storm. And again, it looks like really only northern Colorado is going to get anything out of Friday going into Sunday. So nothing too exciting. All right. Another place that I really want to focus on now that we've gone into spring is these freezing levels. So we are well above average temperatures right now. So as we start to look forward, so this is going to be really important for Sarah looking into Vail Pass, because Sarah needs to make sure that Vail Pass is even going to freeze overnight. So here is my elevations in thousands of feet. And so if I've got pink, that means that we have freezing down to 6,000 feet. If we have kind of this reddish color, that means that it's only freezing to 14,000 feet. It's really bad. So again, we've got Summit County, Eagle County, kind of the Berthoud zone, and then Marvel's going to be kind of over here. Sarah Mac's down in this zone. So right now, down in the Gunnison zone, it's only freezing to 10,000 feet. That's a big problem. And this is where we start to think of, are we going to start to see wet slab issues? Because it's not even freezing overnight. So playing this out. So here comes the nighttime. So our freeze levels start to go down. And that looks pretty good for tonight. That means we're going to get a nice solid freeze through the state. That's going to blow out. This is telling me that Friday is probably going to be a little chilly. That's going to blow out. Saturday looks chilly. Saturday is going to get really, really warm. And then going into Sunday morning. So for Sarah, this is 1 o'clock in the morning and our freeze levels are 8,000 feet. That's pretty scary. Not great. So going into spring, this is definitely an area that I want to check, because if I have an objective, so say I want to ski drift, which is over in Mayflower Gulch. Well, if drift didn't freeze overnight, I certainly don't want to be on it. I'm just asking for it. So this is going to be an area that I really want to check, especially going into spring. All right, so going back to our model forecasts, let's come down over here to the North American model. And let's just for the heck of it, let's see if the North American model lines up with the WRF model. So the North American model, the NAM has only been only running for 36 hours. So it's a shorter run right now. So here we have Thursday at 6 o'clock is when this model is starting. And it looks like they see that same storm coming in Friday, and then their model runs out. Is everybody following me on all this? Yeah, cool. All right. All right, so going back to ways that you can really, really burn a ton of time. All right, so we saw how we can really compress that to Colorado, or specifically our zone, wherever it is in Colorado, and really get like, I need the nitty gritty. What's going to happen in the next 24 hours? We really can only predict weather about 24 hours out. So when you have whatever forecast that you're looking at and somebody tells you, well, you know, next Sunday, it's probably going to do blah, blah, blah. They can't, that's just a guess. Your guess is as good as theirs. All right, so to look at big picture, we can come out here and we're just going to keep it on the Western United States. All right, what these numbers mean is these are barometric. So these are barometers. So this is 500 millibars. So remember our jet stream? So the bottom of the jet stream is at 500 millibars. The top of the jet stream is this 300 millibars. And then 700 doesn't really do much good for us here in Colorado. It's too low. This is around 12,000 feet. So it's just too low. So if you're planning on skiing in Michigan, this would be a great place to look, is the 700. But let's look at the 500. Let's look to see what the bottom of the jet stream is going to do. So I want to look to see what the relative humidity is. Is there even moisture in the air at 500 millibars at the bottom of the jet stream? So we'll slow this down here in a second. All right, we've got Colorado. And what I'm looking for is a couple of different things. Which way is the wind blowing from? So I'm going to see the wind moving around, but I also want to see where these greens are. We need green. Green means some sort of moisture. This yellow means high and dry. This means absolutely nothing. This means that really hot air is going to blow and it's going to be spring or almost summer. So relative humidity. And then this is our temperature at elevation. These lines right here. All right, so we've got Thursday, and here is where that northerly storm started to blow in, but it looks like we're just not getting precip down in. There's just no moisture. And we've got just a whole lot of dry. This looks pretty bleak. And going into Sunday. Oh, looks like maybe Sunday afternoon, the Front Range or Colorado Springs might get a little blast of something. Nebraska, maybe we should go ski in Nebraska. And then the model runs out. So as far as our predictions look so far, maybe Northern Colorado might get something on Friday real quickly. And then Colorado Springs, we should all race down to Pikes Peak, except for the road is closed right now. So that's not a good idea either. Maybe Colorado Springs will get something. Or if you know of an awesome ski hill in Nebraska, that might also be good. We can kind of run this out for a little bit further. So this is the global model, and let's look to see what really, really long-term looks like. Let's look way out into the future. Yep, we gotta let this load. All right, so again, this started at 12 today. Here we are. And we're looking at what's happening way out here in the ocean. Are we gonna get some sort of precip? So we've got this brewing off of the Canadian coastline. Looks like Whistler's getting a pretty good blast. Looks like the whole of Canada is doing pretty well. And then I've got this nice little bit of closed low. This is a closed low, so it's closing in on itself. So the weather in the Midwest does not look amazing. So there is maybe a little bit of weather that blew through later this afternoon. Here's that little Friday blast that may happen. And then nothing, 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 nothing. And looks like Sunday afternoon, maybe we'll see something. Everybody following me so far? Okay. Again, this is just a model, so these are just predictions. And then I've got a little something on Monday, little something on Tuesday, little something on Wednesday. And this actually looks pretty darn good. Little something on Thursday. And again, that's a closed low. So see how that storm is just kind of backing in on itself and circling around. So that's called a closed low. So high pressure means no precipitation, typically no precipitation, or high and dry. Forecasters will often use that terminology. Oh, it went high and dry for 3 weeks, and you'll read that on the forecast. Closed low, low pressure tends to mean moisture. So we've got a closed low, so that low pressure is just swirling around on itself. All right. So we can look at real world forecast, and let's see if our prediction is right. So we've got, this is off the NOAA site, and little chance of snow on Friday. So we saw that on the model. And then going into Monday night, so we also saw that on the model. So NOAA is lining up with that forecast fairly well. Okay, so since this is a model, this is a computer that is telling us what we may or may not want to see. We're always going to back it up, and I look at 3 different websites, and then I basically throw a dart in the middle and decide what I hope cast a lot. So I take what I'm seeing, and then I interpret it to the best of my ability, and that always ends up, I interpret it as snow at some point. So I hope cast. And when we go high and dry, I tend to refresh the model every hour, hoping that it changes, thinking that somehow me refreshing the computer will magically change the forecast. It has not worked so far, but I have not given up hope. All right, so let's check out, so this is Medio Blue. So Medio Blue is a different model. This is based on the European model. And it looks like they agree. Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got a little bit of moisture coming our way. We can pull this out to a 14-day. And yep, lo and behold, that's lining up with that global model that we saw. All right, we're gonna come to one more place just to see. So this is the Norwegian site. The Norwegians apparently have the largest computer model in the world. So I like to check them out. This is all in Celsius, so don't let it freak you out. And what we're seeing here, so they do like that little blast on tomorrow afternoon. They agree with that, but they're also lining up with those storms next week. So it looks like we potentially might get something next week. Now for Sarah's class on Vail Pass, things aren't looking so stellar. Sorry, Sarah. And just for those of you that don't mess around with NOAA a whole lot, you can always come down. So this forecast is for Avon. If I want to get a point forecast, so if I want to see what's happening on Vail Pass tomorrow, because I might want to head up there in the afternoon, I can always come down to this box. And let's say that we might have the opportunity to ski Buffalo tomorrow. So I can always come over here and I can just click on anywhere on this map and it's going to reload. And if I look up here now, I'm looking at 4 miles northwest of Frisco, and I've got a point forecast for that zone. So I can point forecast for anywhere I want. So again, not just for snow, but as we're going into mountain bike season, kayak season, hiking season, all useful information that you can use for whatever your sport is to keep yourself, especially hiking. If you want to start doing 14ers or going on big overnights, knowing what the weather's going to do. So, you know, should you bail or take an extra jacket or take more sunscreen. One last little area that we'll look at on, sorry, I'm traveling. There's my COVID test. One last little area that I like to check out on CIC is down here at the weather stations. And this is going to give me updated information. So our other things that we were looking at were models. This is actual updated telemetry. So these weather stations are all over Colorado. You can see all of the stations. And I can change the parameters. So I can keep it on weather. I can look at precipitation. I can look at wind or snow. I can change it to an hourly update, get kind of a daily overview, or Meteo is a 30-day overview. So it was pretty windy out today. So if not super concerned about the wind because there's just no snow on the ground. There's no snow blowing around. But backing ourselves back up to March 1st, if it was March 1st and we had a storm, or let's say next Tuesday when chances are looking pretty good for a storm, I can come down here to wind on the morning and I can get a pretty good overview of what the wind was doing. So I can come here to China Bowl and click China Bowl and get all kinds of updated wind information to see, well, how windy was it? And do I have some sort of wind loading issue? So this is telling me the direction of the wind. So the arrow is always pointing the windward side. So this is telling me west to east. Here are my gusts, and then this is my steady wind speed. So if there were snow on the ground today, I would definitely be concerned about some sort of wind loading, but there just wasn't snow to move around. And then we can look at our updated information here, or we can look at this wind rose. So as we come down, we can kind of get our general where the wind was blowing from and at those speeds. And we can do that for all of these. For those of you that are familiar with the danger scale, the colors coordinate with that danger scale. So anytime we're seeing these colors, it's because they want you to be aware that these wind values or these numbers correlate with high avalanche danger. So that's where that color coding comes from. We can go back to weather and just get a general overview. And again, these are all colored for considerable because these temperatures are very, very high. So as I'm looking at this chart Here's my station. This is the elevation of that station. This is current temperature. This was the high temperature over the last 24 hours, the low temperature over the last 24 hours, the relative humidity. So I need this number to be around 80 plus. That's going to tell me some sort of precipitation. Current wind speed, current wind direction. So this is telling me in numbers. So think of your compass. The numbers are going to correlate with direction. So at the top, north is 0 or 360. South is going to be 180, 90, and 270. And then this is gusting speed. So coming down, I don't know where you all are at, but in my zone, very, very warm. But again, coming back to spring, did I even see freezing in certain areas? So Vail Mountain at 10.3 barely froze, barely. Looks like everywhere else did A-okay. And then currently it's gusting 45 miles an hour on Breckenridge, which is pretty common. That's kind of how it always is. Super. All right. A whole lot of info, a whole lot of me babbling. So let's get some questions or concerns, or we can just talk about snow or our dogs. Whatever you want.
I have a question, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
I had trouble with this before. Where do you find a map of where all of these weather stations are located?
All right. So if we come back here, so any of the Snowtels, you can just jump on the Snowtel site. CIC, so these are, if you just contact the CIC office, they'll let you know where they're getting their telemetry from. It's usually one of the weather stations that they've set up. Let's see, Mezzo West, so these are, Mezzo is, I believe it's a university program. Roz is like it's a NOAA site. So any of the Roz, the Mezzo, you can just contact NOAA and find out. But typically, so the problem with Snowtel sites are, Snowtel was built for water conservation. So Snowtel sites tend to not be in the best areas for backcountry skiing. So usually I like to look more at what are ski resorts telling us. If in a pinch, you know, Snowtel site's going to give you baseline, but if you click on Snowtel, it's going to have the map of all of the Snowtel sites in all of Western Colorado. If you want to find out like where the Roz is, you can contact NOAA or look up the Roz site, and same with Mezzo West. Did I answer your question, Sarah? Cool. And then like Vail Resorts, you know, always be mindful that ski areas, of course, they want to capture the most amount of snow. So their snow stakes are always going to be in like the best areas. Whereas like Sarah Janin can talk about the Snowtel site in Rocky Mountain National Park is in the worst area. It's so skewed. And even Vail Pass, so the CDOT yard is in a little bit of a concavity. So it's never telling you, the wind is pretty skewed, and then snow totals tend to be a little bit lower as well. But you can always just contact NOAA and ask them, where the heck is this thing? Anybody else?
I've got plenty more, but maybe I can ask you at another time.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like you just answered a million questions for me already, and I'm still like, oh my God, I'm so excited I get to use all this. Do you teach courses on this at all, like specifically, or on weather?
No, just online. Post-COVID, so CIC will do a 3-day weather course, and that tends to be Schnooky, the guy that built the wharf model. He usually teaches those courses, and he's just awesome. So John Schnook. And if you go on CIC, they're usually in October. Hopefully next October we'll go back to real life. But I would say those are hands down the best courses that you can take are the CIC, that one that Schnooky does.
I took one through the American Avalanche Institute.
Oh, did you do that one this winter?
Yeah, it was all on Zoom, and I was just like super at the end, but it was really cool. I want to do it again. Just that's the way I work. Like I can't absorb all of it all in like one jam-packed weekend. So I'm really excited to be here too, listening to you to just like drive home all of that knowledge.
And Zoom's hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. I know the way that I learned, so I like figured out my techie millennial way of recording the screen for the entire thing.
That's
Actually, I have a question, Kelly, that I hope will be relevant to the rest of the women too. So like you mentioned like going to different weather sites, and I think that that's like more tangible. Like if we were gonna like go out and like only do one thing, you know, what would it be? Like for me, for a while, I was just focusing on NOAA because I was told that it runs, like it finds an average of many different models. But yeah, can you speak to like kind of a dumbed down version? Like if we take nothing else away, what should we do?
I would say pick 3 sites that really, and I think that's the beauty of these weather sites is you're going to find the one that you really like. Like Windy TV is great, but it can be a bit complex. But find 3 sites that you understand and check all 3 sites, and then just take the median of what you're seeing. And truly, you can check NOAA, the Norwegians, and Meteo Blue. So you're looking at 3 different models, and you'll see that all 3 different models, there are days that they don't even align at all. And you're like, all right, so I'm glad I have a 40-liter backpack because I'm literally taking everything but the kitchen sink. The divergence will be so amazing, and it's a model. Like it's you know, Joel Gratz is just a dude that's figured this out and figured out how to market it and do really well at marketing. But I would say just find 3 sites that really resonate with you, that that you can kind of mess around with and feel very comfortable. And then just always check all 3 and see kind of where they align or not align. But more importantly, the nice thing is wind values are hard numbers. So once you start seeing, you know, we're always planning ahead. So so if we were to go to, oh, hi, puppy. If we were thinking about skiing Buffalo this weekend, I'm going to really start to look at the weather now. You know, is it even going to get cold out? Is there a weather system coming in? Which way is the weather system going to come in? And I don't want to say dumb it down, but I can make that a lot easier by just looking at, well, NOAA's telling me that the wind keeps coming from the west. Or, geez, every time I listen to NPR, they keep telling me about this upslope that's going to happen. Like, oh, Denver, you know, stay at home. You'll lock your doors. It's Armageddon on the Front Range.
Or the weather report.
The weather.
Have you seen his Facebook Seth's weather report?
No.
Oh, you got to start following him. He is amazing.
Is he?
Yeah, he's super dialed with weather. It's like his passion, and he's a big skier, and he posts about weather like daily.
See, it's an addiction. It's a small addiction. I'm telling you, when you start poking around, it's like, ooh, what does this do? What does that do? And then you can start stalking Seth. I don't know, Seth. The Norwegians say. He's going to be like, oh my God, who are you? Yeah, I think just find a couple of sites that you're really comfortable with. You know, you can always fall back on Seth or Joel Gratz, but I think the more you understand weather, and then going into next season, start putting weather and snowpack together, and you'll see that they're the same thing, more or less. So with the forecasters, the CIC forecasters, there's 3 different types of forecasters. So there's the highway guys, and their job is commerce. They have to keep the highway open. There's the backcountry forecasters, and currently there's only 4 of them in the entire state. So those are the guys that are going out and digging pits and poking around. And then you have what used to be the Boulder guys, but then COVID happened, so now they're the stay-at-home guys, and they start forecasting at 4 a.m. and the first thing they do is start looking at weather, and they're basing almost the majority of that frontline stuff is based on weather, what's happening with weather. So if you can kind of master weather and then just continue your avalanche education, you'll really start to see like, oh, this all does align. But I think weather can be the easiest component of it all.
I would really like to know, Kelly, about well, number one, like, how can we find you, and like, how can we hire you? Like, what do you do? How can we hang out with you more? Like right?
Yep,
Live
agree.
here. Live in Viewville.
What's your address?
On a street in Eagleville. Yeah, I work all over the state. So I mainly work in Vail and Aspen, little bit in Steamboat. I did work briefly in the San Juans last year, but everything got shut down, and a little bit in Montana. But mainly I'm kind of here in the Central Rockies. And if you want to get out, I'm a really big advocate of mentorship. You know, who's taken their level 1? So, okay, quite a few of you. At the course close, that was probably a big thing, was like, go find a mentor. Yeah, good luck. And I think more and more companies have kind of seen the value of like, well, we should probably offer mentorship programs. I'm a big advocate of mentorship because it's not something that you just go out and seek. Is the person that you've been kind of following, are they even, should they even be a mentor? Or as you learn more, are you kind of seeing like, wow, their decision making is a little off? You know, as you bring up something like mapping or weather, do you just get this bizarre sense of like, I don't think that they understand what I'm saying. So me personally, I think mentorship should be, okay, I'm a Taylorville salesperson. So I have a landscape company in the summer. Sarah Janet used to work for me. I am a horrible salesperson. I'm the like, I don't really think you need 3 trees. I think you could get away with 1. And my business partners are like, shut up. Like, why would you? Yes, your house is worth 13 million, but like, let's save you a little money. So as far as a guide, I truly think mentorship should be free. And I think the more you mentor, then going into like a level 2, well, yeah, you're going to have to pay for a level 2, but going into something like a level 2 or these weather classes, if you've had the chance to go out with someone that will truly just answer your questions, taking that next step into that higher education, you're going to go into those classes and have like very targeted questions. I want to learn this. Explain this. Why is this happening? So I'm happy to go out most days with, and it'll give me an excuse to not work as much. I teach too many classes.
Savita offer.
As a fellow Valley resident, and a fellow landscaper as well, I will definitely keep tabs on you, because once she gets a little bit bigger, next season it's back on. So I just think that's that you even saying that is just like a diamond in the rough. There's few of you around, so that's really, really awesome that you have that kind of attitude towards mentorship. And then we won't have to rely on our significant others, or peer decision making. I think a lot of communication gets lost, and that's really cool. So I'm blown away. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that presentation.
Oh, thanks.
Really good.
Yeah, I think again, when I came into the field, there were so few mentors, and it wasn't even mentor. It was kind of just really throw caution to the wind. And so there weren't those stepping stones. It was kind of just try to keep yourself alive, and then have a good time with other people. So I think the backcountry world, it's just been topsy-turvy. It's been a really interesting to watch it grow in a really condensed manner, versus for our climbers. Climbing didn't like escalate. It didn't like jump from one thing to another. It was incremental steps, and it's been a thing for a long time. Whereas backcountry skiing, it's come, gosh, just leaps and bounds in 30 years, and people are floored. So the first time I heli skied in Alaska, there was one operation and there were no guides, and you didn't wear Avi gear, so you just got on this helicopter with this insane pilot, and then the 3 other people on the helicopter, you just flew around until everybody was like, do you want to go there? And then you said, okay, I guess all 4 of us say there. And then you just got off the helicopter, and then you're like, okay, I hope you're going to pick us up at the bottom. Bye. And that's how it was. And that wasn't that long ago, really. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago. And now, you have airbag packs, and, you've got so much. So it's gotten to this point that it's just it's a massive change. But again, like the base knowledge hasn't really changed. Like, we don't have these mentorship programs. And I mean, Sarah Janin, how many times have you ended a class like, go find a mentor, of whom I have no idea who you're going to contact? Hire a guide.
It's been like an interesting conversation. I feel like I've learned the most from stepping into like more of like a leadership role among my friends, and just like friends with like the same training as me, where we can actually have like same level of conversations. It's a weird conversation, because like, yeah, mentors just are busy. They're all really busy doing their own thing, right?
And then what happens when you outgrow your mentor?
Right. Exactly. Move to a new town. Learn a new snowpack. Get out of Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, you're not gonna fear for your life every time you step off the trail. Go to Canada.
Well, if we wanted to reach out to you, Kelli, should we like follow you on, or like befriend you on Facebook? Or the best way to stay in touch?
Here, I'll put my best contact Yes, Jamie, I would be happy to go to Marble. I love Marble. Here,
What is this?
here's my
That mean? Wait.
email for you guys to contact me on.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Where are you? What are you gonna eat?
Hi,
I just got
Jackie.
dropped off dessert.
Oh, nice. Ed Cresson, that this vaccine clinic was at the Westin, and they gave us bags of food. So
Oh, nice.
I was like, look what I got today. Crazy guy and a bag of food. Cool. Any other questions? Nicole, you've been so quiet and you're in like such a dark room. There you go.
Thank you.
You're getting sleepy in your dark room there.
Thank you guys all for coming. Kelly, that was absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Learned a ton.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Yeah, that was awesome. Mm-hmm.
You actually did some of my planning for me this weekend, so thanks.
Oh,
Like, see?
places to not go.
I
Yeah.
know, it's sad. This year's sad.
Well, it looks like let's hope for next week to be maybe a bit better. Hopefully. One last little blast of winter to give us some hope that we're not going to catch on fire.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it like every year when the mountain closes, it just dumps the hardest? So what, April 16th? Just expect
Yeah.
it to dump.
Yeah, we look at fourth winter on the way.
Right?
I'm
Hopefully.
sorry, I have one more question.
Oh, go.
Have you seen a difference in the snowpack since global warming? Like, have you been noticing things happening with snowpack and just any patterns that you've noticed?
I think
Extremes.
yeah, extremes for sure. To be honest, early in my career, I probably smoked a lot of pot and ate a lot of mushrooms, and so I wasn't really paying attention. I've worked with Protect Our Winters a lot over the last couple of years, and getting more. I'd say I've really only paid attention the last 15 years, but yeah, like Sarah Janin said, extremes. One of the biggest things, and I think this is maybe one of the things that's going to be our biggest demise is dust storms, dust events. So the more we denude the soil and we get those bigger dust events, those just wreak havoc. So we're changing the albedo of the snowpack, so we're creating a quicker snow melt. So our dust event that we had a month ago is very, very, very close to coming to the surface. And so once that hits the surface, it destabilizes the snowpack really rapidly. So that's kind of one of the biggest things that I've noticed are these horrific dust events and just those extremes. So there's an amazing, I'll try, actually, Sarah Mack, if you have a chance, one of the first AAA presentations, there was a professor that spoke on atmospheric rivers. And what he was seeing is that those atmospheric river events are going to become fewer, but more intense. So we're going to see shorter winters, but when we do get those atmospheric river events, they're going to be a lot more destructive. So I think that's kind of the general outlook, is that we won't have this nice steady snowpack. We're going to see a little bit what we saw this winter, like with Tahoe, getting 5 feet and then high and dry. So those incremental snow loads really do us right, whereas these destabilizing bigger events, and I think globally, so really you know, the Alps are just being destroyed. And the more, I mean, we really don't have a 12-month snowpack anymore. So that's just increasing the speed of what's happening. But it's, yeah, especially over the last 5 years, it's pretty depressing. So I try to think of like, rather than it bumming us out, do something about it, and like teach people about weather, and or talk about those dust storm events, and try to get people on board of I think there is still something we can do about it. So let's do something about it. And it's kind of like this vaccine thing. Like it takes a village. It's going to take all of us. But the more on board we are, and the more that we can speak to it, and just looking at, you know, if you can start tracking weather and start seeing those like crazy patterns. But if I can find this professor in his presentation, I'll post it. It's pretty amazing. But I've got quite a bit on warming events and whatnot in the archives. We were supposed to do an Abbey class in Iceland off a sailboat, but that was canceled. It was going to be through Protect Our Winters. Those guys really see a lot up there. So it was going to be a collaboration. If we're able to put something together, I think, Jamie, do you live in Carbondale? Do you live in the Marble Zone? So CRMS, I think I have them talked into taking their kids for interim to Iceland to ski off a boat. So if that happens, I'll try to back up like multiple events. Carbon footprint flying around, great, flying a bunch of rich kids to Iceland to teach them about global warming for my own personal benefit. Yeah, but yeah, do something about it. Really, I think we can.
You know how can I get on the highway, or how do I get on the highway?
Marka,
Straight to turn around.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
yeah. Mark.
We've all felt that way at one point.
Right?
Where the hell am I?
That's funny.
Awesome. Anything else? Well, thanks, lady. Thanks for
thank you, Kelly. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
so much. It was cool to hear from you.
yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Thanks, you guys. Thanks,
Yeah.
ladies. Sarah,
Good
maybe
luck
I'll
to-
see you.
Yeah, good to see ya.
Hopefully we
Bye.
can see each other soon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.